All right, everyone, what is going on? It's another Thursday, 3 p.m., almost the weekend. We hope all of you have had a great week, and we hope you're all ready to learn something useful about insurance. May not be the most exciting, but it's going to be very useful. You're going to learn something good today.
Hey, don't sell it short, Michael. Come on, this is exciting stuff.
It'll be exciting, super exciting.
Hey, we're gonna talk Johnny Depp and what's her name? What's the Amber
Amber
Heard?
Heard. There you go.
Heard, yeah. Hey.
Hey,
So all you people who
that's
are into
exciting.
that, legal drama stuff.
There you
Hey,
go.
we're gonna get
There
into
you go.
that. Little
like
teaser, they call that in the business.
Nice teaser. All right, so let's do it. So as I think we mentioned in the last video, Chase and I text back and forth about topics. We take a lot of topics from our own clients, the questions we get, the things we feel like people don't understand and that we feel people need to understand, things where there's confusion around certain topics, anything we can take to help and break it down so that all of you understand it and then can take that information and better protect yourself. That's what we want to talk about. So today's topic, I texted Chase the other day and said, hey, I feel like a lot of people do not understand what homeowners liability coverage can do for you. It's kind of an afterthought. When people think about home insurance, they think about the actual home, the structure of their home. Like if it burns down, I want to be protected. If a tree falls on my home, I want it to be protected. So I feel like we always think about the actual structure of our home and not the actual liability coverage. But in many cases, the liability coverage is probably going to be the most important, especially if you do something dumb or your kid does something dumb or you make a huge mistake. That's really what's going to kick in and help you. So I'll kind of discuss the homeowners coverage and what it looks like. And then Chase, from his perspective as an attorney, can jump in and he can talk about different scenarios he's seen in his practice. So first off, liability coverage, it comes in increments. It usually always starts at $100,000 in coverage. If you get a quote from an insurance company and they offer you $100,000 in liability coverage, immediately send it back and say, no, give me more coverage, bump it up. You can go 100,000, 300,000, 500,000. Some companies allow you to do up to $1 million. But if they don't, and you need more coverage, which you probably do need more coverage, we have other episodes that we can link here that talk about umbrella coverage. You want to check that out.
And for one point, Michael, is in my experience, I have yet to come across a 100,000 policy.
Oh, good.
It is available, but so far the lowest I've ever come across in situations that I've had has been 300,000.
That's good.
And so that would be, in my thoughts, the absolute minimum that anybody would want to carry.
Perfect. That makes me happy that you haven't seen any 100,000. That means there's good agents out there doing what they should.
Yeah, they're watching your videos.
Right? There you go. And here's the crazy thing. Like if you do have 100,000 and you want to bump it up to 300,000, we're literally talking like $5-10 a year to bump it up. And then to bump it up to 500,000, we're probably talking, I don't know, another $20 or so. So it's very, very inexpensive to get the type of coverage that you need in terms of liability. And liability coverage, it carries no deductible. So you're not going to pay anything out of pocket. And essentially, liability coverage is going to protect you in things that you are negligent for and that you're being sued for. So this is where Chase, with his expertise, can jump in. But there's a number of different scenarios. Chase can touch on some, and then I'll have some questions as he gets going. But Chase, tell us from your perspective how you've seen liability coverage be a valuable coverage.
So the situations that I see it most as a personal injury attorney are in 3 areas. The first are dog bites. If any of you dog owners, and for that matter, cat and just any animal, if they bite or harm somebody, in Arizona, it's strict liability. And so you are going to be at fault, regardless if it was the very first time your dog had ever done that, or it was a repeat offender kind of thing. And so if your dog bites somebody, you are going to be on the hook for that. The only way to avoid being at fault for that is if the person who was bitten, provoked the dog to do it, did something that was obvious that would make a dog bite it, pull its tail or something like that.
Okay.
So that's the one. And with as many people that have dogs, that's what you really want to look at. And don't think, my dog is the nicest thing in the world. It'll never do that. every time that
happens.
I've had a case like that, it was always the first time the dog had ever done that.
Yes.
Every time. And so
I even have a little Maltipoo that like you can kick 20 feet across, the yard. And our pool guy came one day and the dog got out and actually bit the guy in the ankle.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was like a very small bite and the guy had on pants. But I was thinking to myself, wow, if he had or she had gotten through skin, that would have been bad. I probably would have been sued.
Well, and because then you're also dealing with the scary part beyond just getting bitten is the infections that can happen. And that's where things can get crazy. In the cases that I've had, they get bit in the forearm gets infected, and then it starts to affect the muscles and the tendons.
Yeah.
And then it's a very serious injury that then affects somebody's use of their hand, their arm for the rest of their life. And so if you have an animal, make sure that you have decent coverage. So that's the number one area that I see it the most.
Before you move on to the next one, I have to say from the insurance perspective, there are certain companies that have certain breeds of dogs that will be covered under liability. So when you get a quote, hopefully your insurance agent or company asks you, do you have any dogs? And you can tell them yes. If they don't ask you, I would say, ask them, say, hey, I have a Rottweiler. Is this going to be covered? Because if that breed of dog or whatever animal is on the excluded list and something happens, you're still going to get sued, but your insurance company is not going to offer coverage.
Yep. You're going to be on the hook for it yourself. So yes, that's a good point. If anybody has watched more than one of these videos, you'll know how Michael always says that not all insurance policies are the same. It's not a blanket thing that is the same for everybody. And so you have to really read the terms of it. So if you have an animal and you have homeowners insurance, one, make sure there isn't some sort of exclusion for your pet. In general, I have yet to see a policy that says no coverage for animals. But like you said, Michael, I have seen it where they will bar certain types of animals or dogs. The ones that I've seen, it says they bar any, I forget how they use the phrase, like non-domestic animal, like a tiger. Things like that. It was like, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you have a tiger or a giraffe, you should probably check that with your insurance company.
Yeah, really do. And if you got that, then you've got other things to worry about.
Right.
So that's the number one area that I see it the most are dog bites. The second is an assault. If you're involved in some kind of fight. Again, even if you're not the instigator, if you're defending yourself, if you get involved in some kind of fist fight or anything like that, there's a very high likelihood that the other person could sue you and claim that they were the one that was in self-defense, or any circumstance like that involving a fight. Your homeowner's insurance could potentially step in and cover you for that situation. And one issue that we'll get a little bit more in depth as we talk about this as part of what the teaser is, not only is your liability coverage with your homeowner's insurance covering you for the damages that you may cause someone else, it's also going to provide you with the legal representation. And that in itself is huge, because if you are sued for something like assault, where you were not the instigator, you were just defending yourself, yet the other person sues you, then you also don't have to worry about paying an attorney to defend you. Your homeowner's insurance is going to step in, hire an attorney, and pay for it themselves without you having to pay for it. Because like Michael said, there's no deductible.
Got it.
So the case that comes to mind for me is we had a client at a Cardinals game that before they had, I haven't been to a Cardinals game in so long, but it was a while ago, like when the stadium first opened in 2006.
Okay.
The beer bottles were still glass.
Ooh,
and our client had got a beer bottle smashed over his head, cut his head open. It was disgusting.
Wow.
But the guy was claiming self-defense. So we brought the claim against the guy that did it. The guy that did it brought a claim against our client, but ultimately we were able to resolve it that clearly he was not the instigator, and there were witnesses there to help. But that's a situation where you'll be glad to have it, not only for the coverage if you are found at fault, but also to help in paying for the defense of the case.
Got it. So you brought up one point, and then I want to touch on another point too. One thing that I feel like a lot of people don't understand, and Chase, I'm glad you brought it up. Liability coverage will give you legal representation if you're being sued. That's number one. I feel like a lot of people don't know that. And then number two, liability coverage is not just for when you're on your property, right? Liability coverage can cover you, most policies anywhere in the world, if you do something negligent or you do something stupid and you're being sued. your liability coverage can kick in and help. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that.
And so that's what I guess we can kind of touch on this now is when we were talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So many people were following that when that was going on. Johnny Depp's defense. So he had multiple attorneys, but the person who was in charge of defending him was being paid by his homeowner's insurance. I think you said before we got started, it was Travelers.
Yep.
Yeah. And so Johnny Depp was getting representation for the claim against him through his homeowner's insurance. So another great reason to just make sure that you carry enough or that you've got a good policy so that you can be represented in a situation where maybe you were falsely accused. And now, Johnny Depp had an attorney who was bringing the plaintiff claim on his behalf and then had an attorney who was also defending him. So he's getting double the representation.
Perfect. And a lot of people always think, oh, he's being sued. Well, yes, technically he's being sued, but it's his insurance company who's providing representation and the payout if he needs to pay out, right? So that's why if you have the proper coverage, you rarely have to worry about, being sued personally and losing all of your money.
Exactly.
Your insurance company is going to take care of it.
If you have the proper coverage, right?
Yes.
Making sure that you have sufficient limits and those kind of things. But again, staying on that topic, here in Arizona, you don't sue the insurance company when something's wrong. You sue the individual for liability. And that goes with car accidents. It goes with dog bites. It goes with assaults, or in the Johnny Depp situation, slander and libel. You sue the individual. And although you're suing the individual, your contract with your insurance company has a provision that says, if you are sued, we are going to provide a defense for you and that they will pay for that defense. It's because the insurance company ultimately is going to be the person who pays the claim. So in the end, when the jury determined that someone is at fault and they owe X amount of dollars, it's not the individual paying that money. It's the insurance company, unless there's a coverage issue as far as, in a situation where someone's case gets $1 million at trial, but they only had $500,000 of coverage, then that may be a situation where you do have to pay part of it out of pocket. That's going down that path a little too much. But just remember that in car accidents, in homeowners claims, anything like that, if someone is being sued and is defended by an attorney, it's the insurance company who's paying for it, and it's the insurance company who's going to pay the claim at the end of it. So just another reason to have the good coverage, that liability coverage, to just have a catch-all in case something were to happen. And again, if it's a falsely accused situation, then you have somebody who's going to defend you without you having to pay out of your pocket.
Perfect.
So that's, or go ahead.
I was going to say another reason to have the right coverage and not be stressed out all the time that if something goes wrong, you're going to be financially ruined.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the second area that I see it the most. Again, first is dog bites. Second is an assault or some kind of fight. The area I see it the most after that is some sort of negligence out in the public. And so in one of our videos, we talked about a claim that I had of my client snowboarding here in Flagstaff. And she had fallen down and was sitting on the slopes and was waiting to get back up when somebody was going very fast on his skis, lost control, slipped, fell down and slid into her, causing significant injury. Again, he didn't purposely do it, and that's not what we were claiming. It was negligence. He was going too fast. He wasn't maintaining control of himself, lost control and hit my client. His homeowner's insurance stepped in. We ultimately did have to sue him because we couldn't get it settled. But after suing him and serving him, his insurance stepped in, hired an attorney, and worked the case. And we were able to get to a settlement that was paid by his homeowner's insurance, not by him out of pocket. And so, again, another reason why it's good to have that coverage so that you're protected not only at your house, but when you're out and about with friends, with family, or nobody, just by yourself. And if something like that were to happen. Right.
And I feel like a lot of times people, me on the insurance side, I see people come to me and we try to say, hey, this is a valuable coverage. This would cover you in this situation. And a lot of people say, I'm a safe driver. I don't do anything stupid. I'm not going to get sued. Well, it's not like you're out there looking for things to do that are going to get you sued, or that there's other people out there that are looking for things to do to you so they can get sued. Accidents happen, things happen, life happens. And so you can't ever assume that, no, I go snowboarding, but nothing's ever going to happen to me. Or no, I drive down the road and nothing's ever going to happen. Something's going to happen eventually, and you're going to need that coverage. Doesn't mean you're
Exactly.
bad or other people are bad, but stuff happens.
The guy that was skiing that hit my client was, a middle-aged individual that had been skiing his whole life. It just happened. And again, he didn't do it on purpose. He didn't go out and be like, I'm just going to slam into this person or being totally reckless. It was just, he was going too fast for the area, lost control, and hit my client.
Yeah.
And so you don't know when those kind of things are going to happen. And so because he had the proper coverage, boom, he's there to be taken care of. He's able to compensate my client for the injuries and being bedridden for a month. It was really bad.
Yeah.
And she didn't ask for that. She didn't want to have that happen, but the law provides for her medical charges to be paid for and to receive pain and suffering. And rather than that guy have to pay it out of pocket, his health or his homeowner's insurance paid for the defense and ultimately for the settlement. So those are the three areas I see it more than anything. Again, dog bites, assaults or fights, or just some kind of negligence while you're out in public. Okay. Other areas that you may see it, kind of like we were talking about with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, is libel or slander. Or another thing I like to point out to people is that if you are a parent, you can be held responsible for the negligence of your kids. Now, Michael and I, we were angels growing up. Like we would just sit at home and, read the Bible, and we just were the greatest kids.
Yes. never a dull moment, or always a dull moment.
Always a dull moment, right? So if any of our parents or friends are watching this, I'm sure they're laughing.
They may disagree.
Yeah. But no, we weren't quite like that. And thankfully, nothing ever happened that would have gotten our parents sued or anything like that. But if we were, my parents or Michael's parents could have been on the hook for the stupid stuff that we were doing. Remember, we grew up in the era of Jackass on MTV.
Yep.
And so you don't know how those things could have played out to be harmful to someone that we could have been in trouble. And because we were minors, our parents are going to be on the hook for it. So even if your child is a dream child, just an angel of a person, you don't know what may happen. Kids do stupid stuff. And if there is negligence involved, it's going to fall on the parents, and the parents are responsible for the negligence of their children, even if the parents aren't there to control them and to stop them from doing it. And again, homeowners insurance would step in, be a source of payment in a settlement, or if a jury verdict is given, and provide a defense of the claim if it's necessary, if you get sued.
And that's why I wanted to do this video, because I feel like people think, oh, my child is off, 2 towns away doing something dumb. How is my homeowner's insurance going to cover that? They don't put 2 and 2 together, but the liability coverage will. In fact, I have a bunch of different scenarios, stories from travelers in terms of what they paid out for in liability, clients that were sued for various reasons. And one of them, a real life story, is a teenager in high school. Very good teenager, very smart, in a very upper level math class. She did not like the teacher. She hated her. She went online, posted horrible things about that teacher, ruined the teacher's career, or tried to ruin the teacher's career. The parents were sued for a lot of money because of what their daughter said online about this teacher. Liability insurance was able to kick in. They had an umbrella policy as well that kicked in, and they were able to have it covered. But again, that's something you wouldn't think of when you think of home insurance, them protecting you when your daughter goes out and talks bad about her high school math teacher.
Yeah, you just can't think of it as home insurance. Okay. Think of it again as homeowners insurance. It's talking about the individual. So yes, the thing that we think about most is the structure of the home, the property inside of the home being protected if it's damaged, burns down, whatever. But the owner itself, the homeowner itself, can have that protection in case something were to happen. And so it's insuring you. It's not insuring only the home. So you kind of have to see it that way. And the same discussion that you and I are having about homeowners insurance applies with renters insurance too. So if people are out there who say, well, I don't own a home, that's fine. You can get renters insurance at your home, at your apartment, or whatever. Yep. And it provides essentially the same coverage as homeowners insurance, both for the structure, for your property, and liability coverage. And so if you think, well, I don't own a home, so that's not going to be necessary with me because I don't have that property. No, you may still have the same situations of negligence, of snowboarding, of having a child say something that they shouldn't have.
Yep.
That's why you want to have that insurance coverage as well.
Glad you pointed that out. So yeah, you can accomplish the same thing with renter's insurance. And then one other thing, Chase, if you could touch on liability insurance. We've talked about it can help with your children, helps with you. So who all can it help with? The immediate family members of the household?
Yes, it's most of the provisions that I have seen, it is limited to the people who live within the home. And so it's not like if you had an uncle who was staying with you for a week and something were to happen that they would get that. It would have to be proven that the people live under the same roof. And so same thing though, if you have a multi-generational home and that's the situation, mom, grandma, and yourselves with your kids all live in the same house, that's fine. If that's shown that everybody does actually reside there, then coverage is going to apply to everybody. Not everyone has to have their own homeowner's policy, but you can, feel okay that come Thanksgiving and you're going to have some friends or family in town that are to stay with you. You've got the weird uncle who you're never quite sure what the heck he's going to do. No, you don't have to worry about your coverage having to extend to him because he doesn't live there.
Perfect. Awesome. Good. Well, I think we just covered a lot in, 20 minutes. So now you all know homeowners insurance, there's lots of different coverages, but liability is probably, if not the most important, the second most important coverage. And like I mentioned in the beginning, it's one of the least expensive coverages on your homeowner's policy. So I would say to all of you, if you're watching this, go look at what your liability limits are. If it's anything below 500,000, go and bump it up. You will probably barely even notice the increase by bumping it up to 500,000.
Well, and like you said, it was, to go up to like 300,000, whatever, it was going to be like $10 more a year. Again, divide that by 12. So you're not even paying more than $1 a month in your coverage. Exactly. And so we preach this every time that we do these videos. You will never regret having a little bit more coverage. And if it means paying $1 more a month to go from 300 to 500,000, when the situation happens where your dog bites somebody or your child does something that they shouldn't have, you'll be glad to have that extra level of protection.
Absolutely. And then also check out, if you already have 500,000 and you're wanting a little bit more coverage, check out our other videos about umbrella coverage. That's what you would want to pick up as well. So anyways, Chase, as always, thanks for being with us. Thanks for your expertise, and all of you watching, thank you. And I'll say this every time, if you have any suggestions, comments, put them down below. Chase and I will cover them as soon as